Well, my name's Jason. I was born 1967. I was diagnosed diabetic at the age of 2 in 1970. What followed was 5 decades also of dopamine deficiency, which only materialized last year. This was brought on because of elevated high sugars in my childhood when I was fed incorrect foods. Then I've come across clean language during last year, and I started applying clean language to myself when I was in crisis. And through the use of clean language, doing that, practicing it on myself, I was able to completely overcome what had been uh, hindering me. I I was a My dopamine has since come back. I've stopped taking drugs. I've stopped drinking. I've completely turned my life around. I was also my high blood sugars were consistently high. Of that, those high sugars, 50% of those sugars were really high. I've also been able to get my A1C, my blood sugar, down to 37%, which is the same as a non diabetic. And I've also been able to reverse my diabetic retinopathy. Sorry, it's a tongue twister, that one. That's the one where your eyes start to go bad because you've got too much sugar in your system.
Mhm. And reversing diabetic retinopathy is a big deal, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I did that without medical intervention. I did. It's because when you use clean language, you're able to talk to yourself, and it's like the aha moments. They just pop up when you go, yeah. And it's a great way to stay in the present. Like, if I'm feeling ill, which you do with sugars, especially high
Mm.
sugars, but for me anyway, uh, I can ask myself, well, what's that kind of beautiful? That beautiful is gorgeous. That gorgeous, and then I can come out and be in a wonderful place, like a meadow, with the wind gently blowing, the sunlight glinting off the grass on the on the trees, with the wind blowing, the sun in the sky just rising, the bunny rabbits hopping about everywhere.
And that's
I
by
could,
asking
I
yourself
could,
questions
I could,
about.
yeah, and I do that so that I'm no longer focusing on the temporary illness that I'm feeling, because we do. Diabetics feel it a lot. We have this eternal internal voice that's always there saying, "How are your sugars? How are your sugars? How are your sugars?" And to live with it is very difficult for other people to understand just what it is we go through mentally.
Mm.
Like, because it's just a case of people just say, "Ah, you're diabetic. Have some sugar, have some insulin." Behind that, there is the internal mental health that we have. And that's so debilitating as well, because if your sugars go high, it makes you feel ill. And when you feel ill, you can then get depressed. And with depression, then sugars will stay high. And it's a vicious circle that, speaking is great. Speaking is superb. That's what needs to be done. And people need to actually reach out and say, yeah, I need help. Or alternatively, like a diabetic nurse has only got to ask the question, and what does that feel like?
Mm.
And then the patient, completely unaware, is going to tell the nurse, and then the nurse can work on further so that the patient is happier. That's what
And
I think anyway.
what difference would that make if the diabetic nurse
Oh,
asks
it'd be,
those kinds of questions? Why would that be useful?
because someone listens. Someone is there. Nobody has listened to me. I think in a diabetic manner. Yes, I've seen the psychiatrists, the psychologists, but they were diabetes centered. No, if I had a diabetic nurse or doctor who actually said, "Oh, that immediately that would give they're listening to me. They know about me." I find that the medical side of diabetes is very much, well, this is where you are with your sugars. That's okay. That's not okay. Off you go. And there's no awareness of the mental health that diabetics go through every day.
My impression is that a lot of diabetic nurses and educators think they are listening.
Yeah, thinking they're listening is a great term. Yes, yeah, they think they listen. They, I don't think that they do really listen, and if they are, then they're asking the wrong questions.
And this is the bit that's hard to explain. What is it that clean language brings to that listening that makes the difference?
Because you're speaking your own words, but as you're speaking your words, the facilitator is repeating your words back to you, and that tells me anyway, or others, that you're being listened to.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are speaking back your words.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be extremely lucky if they weren't listening and were repeating back our words to us.
They do well, wouldn't
Yeah.
And if a diabetes nurse or educator or someone caring for you in diabetes was really listening and they
Yeah.
were repeating back your words and asking you questions like what kind of and that's like what difference would that make?
Oh, well, immediately I can imagine that I'd come away from that appointment meeting feeling ever so much better. feeling like I've been listened to, I've been heard. This is great. It'll be a superb feeling. One that I would go. I'd actually look forward to my meeting. Definitely.
And when you would look forward to your meeting, what difference would that make?
Uh, I'd be looking forward to actually wanting to go rather than just, oh, I'll go. There's the difference is quite profound because nobody's ever listened, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody has ever listened to me uh, at all. So if it happens, then I want to be there. Please.
And absent of that, what you did was use the clean language questions to manage your own condition.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through that a little bit more slowly? What was the first time you used clean language on yourself for yourself?
Uh, Last year, I would guess probably April when I was in a clinic and started saying to myself, and what will happen if you continue to do that? And what is that? That is drinking. Does it make you feel any drinking? What's that doing to you?
Mm-hmm.
Poisoning you. And then the same with drugs as well. I, I didn't want to be poisoned anymore.
Mm.
And then
And
that's essentially what I was doing.
mm,
And I just stopped.
mm.
And I continued to stop. And I
and
continued to talk to myself.
and in that kind of crisis, what was it about? I mean, you obviously have lots of questions in your mind in that kind of situation, and you're reaching for any questions that would be useful. You described yourself using the clean language questions effectively to take your mind into a different part of your awareness.
Yeah.
So you were
Yeah.
putting your own attention on on
On,
something you would
on,
like, on an enjoyable experience,
an
on
enjoyable experience. Yeah.
mm,
Because when you're sick with sugars with diabetes, you will take an insulin injection
mm,
if you've got high sugars. That insulin takes at least 2.5 hours to work. So you still know that you've got 2.5 hours of not feeling that good.
mm,
So, for me, I escape. I put my mind elsewhere, and then it will come back. And then I'll look at the clock and think, it's only an hour now. And then as the hour ticks by, I then I'm feeling better,
mm,
and it's just helpful for me.
mm,
Like I just imagine, and I'm watching the clock tick.
mm, and asking yourself questions about that kind of
Yeah,
daydream, effectively.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, it's a good daydream.
Mhm.
Yeah,
A good
definitely.
positive daydream. And from that point, then you gradually have got your A1C and your diabetic retinopathy under control. Say more about the role of clean in that process. I mean, it's a step-by-step process. It's about action. It's not about magic in the brain. But what happened?
Uh, but with the clean language questions, when you got an app, and on the app it tells you how good you are, and it's green,
Mm,
and it's good to be green because when you're in the green, you're healthy.
mhm,
It also goes orange. You don't want to be in orange, and it goes red. You really don't want to be in red. Like, but it's a case of bringing more green. When you feel more green, you're healthier.
mhm,
You've got no sugar in your body because the sugar in your body is like icebergs in your body. Like that's how I picture the sugar buildup. It's like
mhm,
icebergs in your veins, and you don't want icebergs in your veins. You want the insulin to come away and shoot that away, like break it down into so tiny, tiny particles that it can get absorbed by the blood and then disposed of.
mhm. So you don't want icebergs in your blood. You want that
Yeah,
insulin to shoot them
yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah. And then because then when it does that, your blood is rushing through your body at its peak performance.
Mm,
It's magic. Like it reversed the retinopathy in my eyes. That insulin just came along, went poof, and blew it away. I could see like you got all that oxygen as well blowing through the blood in your arteries, and
mm.
it's just an amazing feeling.
It's an amazing feeling. And when that amazing feeling is happening, what happens to the eternal internal voice?
Ah, that's still there. That's
Still
still
there.
there. Yeah, but we're at one with the eternal voice because the eternal voice is saying, "You've got this, Jay. You've got this
Mm,
under control."
mm,
The internal voice for me isn't there saying tut 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 tut. It's just there saying, "Don't forget your sugars. Don't forget your sugars. Don't forget your sugars." And I've mastered the internal voice.
mhm,
I can't. I can possibly speak for anybody else. That internal voice for me, I've mastered because it's not telling me bad things anymore.
mm,
It used to with my diabetes. No, this is as good as you're going to get. So what, you feel like it was horrible, but now I'm the master.
Mm.
It's not the master.
And when you're the master and it's not going tut 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 anymore, it's going, you've got this. What difference does that make to your actual behavior in terms of managing your sugar, managing your insulin, and so on?
Well, my sugar is these days superb. Uh, as I say, I don't drink anymore. I don't take drugs anymore. It really is just rebounded my whole life. Uh, before before anybody really listened to me, I was just walking through life thinking this is all part and package of being diabetic, because I didn't know that I had a severe dopamine deficiency, and nobody spoke to me.
Mm.
Nobody really came down and said, "What is the matter with you, Jason?" And that's kind of sad. 54 years. Yeah,
It's kind of sad, isn't it? It's
yeah,
like
but but I'm so glad I'm not no longer there.
mm, over 54 years.
Yeah,
I'm curious, how many medical appointments would you have had in that time? How many times do you go to see some
I
kind of medical professional each year?
at least twice a year.
Mm.
Once a year, twice a year. I don't know. It's just as if nobody really paid attention. And then, I don't like to mention family, but my family, no, maybe I didn't say enough. I mean, I know I'm going slightly off topic, but I can remember before the age of 10, lay staying at home by myself, crying, wanting to die.
Mm.
And nobody picked up on this at all.
Yeah,
And
and it
I,
was another world in those days, of course.
oh yeah, 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 definitely. But then I also had several severe depressive episodes throughout my entire life.
Mm.
Uh, since I've applied myself, clean language, got my sugars down, since I was listened to, whatever. Well, I've got my dopamine back. That's the only.
Mm.
That's the only possible connection that I can make, because I don't have this overall feeling of despair with me
Mhm.
anymore.
One thing I'm curious about is now that you don't have that overwhelming feeling of despair, and you've mastered that eternal internal voice, and you've got your A1C under control and reversed the diabetic retinopathy, what difference does all that make to when you do go to see a medical professional? I'm guessing you come across very differently.
Yeah, I come across as more like I'm the one who knows more than you. Sorry, doctor.
Yeah.
Sorry, nurse. Because I do. I walked into my meeting just the other month, and the doctor turned around and said, "Oh, your A1C is better than mine." But, well, there we go. But then he said that I was having too many hypos, and I'm thinking, sorry, you can't tell me my A1C is better than yours, then you're telling me off. You're only telling me off because you're a doctor.
Mm.
To me, I mean, this is the other thing with the system: low sugars. Low sugars are dangerous, low sugars are going to kill you. That's the main message that people get. And that's so wrong for me anyway, because, yeah, you can die with a hypo, low sugar. Chances of that happening are very, very, very small, very small. High sugars, high sugars are the ones that will rot your body so slowly that if none of us are getting out alive.
Mm.
If I had to have a choice, I'd go with the quick one. So I don't run my sugars high.
Mm.
So I run them as low as possible to starve off the icebergs coming back to get me.
Yeah, indeed. And So this is, I suppose, the significant difference between you as a type 1 diabetic and the type 2 diabetics who are more numerous these days,
Yeah,
is that they are basically fighting that high,
yeah, yeah. They are.
and they're never really going to get to that low.
No, but they can, with persistence, reverse it.
Mm,
But it's so it's tough. It's difficult. It's not going to be easy. It's just not. However,
mm,
it's a better choice than not trying to reverse it.
mm. So from what you know, you have your experience, you know things in the general world. Do you think that clean language would be useful for professionals working with type 2 diabetes as
Oh
well?
yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Because
Why?
why? Nobody wants to be ill. No, nobody. We all make decisions based on our best interests.
Mm,
You know, you're unhappy. You see a donut, you eat a donut, you feel happy. That is, that's the common thing. With a clean language bit in there, what will happen if you eat that donut? It may
mm,
will it make you feel happy? Yes. Will it also make you feel bad? What will eventually happen if you continue to eat those donuts?
mm,
You do eat those donuts and your sugar goes through the roof. How are you then going to feel? So yeah, definitely.
mm,
No, because type twos can be reversed.
mm,
It's a hard slog, but it can be there, and to help people just by talking to them, to make them actually see and think what could happen, it would be invaluable, I think. Right.
and of course, again, in the hands of the professionals to be able to really help them to listen in a way that is helpful.
Yes.
Mm,
Oh yeah. I mean, because I've just qualified as a ICF coach, so I will be looking to talk to people.